This is the Louie T Network.
I'm ready for some football. I don't know about you. Who else could it be but your man Louie? Yeah.
Overtime! So we head to overtime.
Who else could it be? Me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to Sunday Night Football Overtime. The Kansas City Chiefs taking on the Houston Texans on Sunday Night Football. Looked to be a great matchup, and thought the Chiefs did a great job of just coming out and pretty much taking the sails out of this Texans team early. Now, in about 2 or 3 different spots in this game, the Texans made it competitive. They never gave up. I can say that even down to the last play of the game, they were looking to be aggressive in this football game, but they simply could not stop the Kansas City Chiefs on the offensive side of the football. Their defense was taxed tonight in more ways than one, not being able to stop the Chiefs on third downs, losing a ton of very impactful players. We'll talk about that much later on. And they simply could not keep the Chiefs from moving the football, similar to what you saw on Monday night from this Chiefs team against the Redskins in the second half of that game, where they dominated time of possession. They dominated the first half of this game, time of possession-wise, played keep away from this Texans offense and really put them to sleep, kept them at arm's bay and at arm's reach and arm's length in this game at just about every turn. Every time you thought the Texans had a shot, 26-20 is as close as it got. They responded emphatically, running away with this game in the fourth quarter. Tyreek Hill, huge and instrumental in that fourth quarter. Big-time catch on a third down and a punt return for a touchdown to really push this thing out of reach. The Chiefs stay unbeaten with a dominant performance. Again, this is the difference. I'll say this, and I still have my reservations about this Chiefs team offensively, but this is the difference. This is the big difference with this Chiefs team this year and the Chiefs team we've seen over the last 3 years or so that's been very good, a playoff team, but you never really thought they had what it took to win the Super Bowl. The difference this year is that they can score points. There was a ceiling, a glass ceiling on the amount of points the Chiefs could score over the last 3 years prior to this season. It was about 31 points. They scored 31. You probably were going to lose that game, and they were probably going to win. But they weren't going to score 31 very often. They were going to score 24. They were going to score 20. They were going to score 19. They were going to score 22. They may get to 27, but they weren't going to score 31 points. This season, I think they've scored at least 30 in 4 out of their 5 victories. I believe that to be the case. They've hit 40 twice already. I didn't think they'd hit 40 again this season, let alone against this Texans team on the road. This Kansas City Chiefs football team, and that's what this is, a complete football team, which I think separates them from a lot of the other teams that are contenders in this league. This is a complete football team that can hurt you on special teams, as you saw tonight. They can hurt you defensively, even though I think their defense isn't all that it seems or all that it's chopped up to be. A lot of people give this Chiefs defense a lot of credit, and I don't think this defense is all that good necessarily. I don't think it's terrible. I think they're good enough to get the job done, especially when their offense is as dynamic as it's been this season, and that probably is the biggest storyline after the first 5 weeks of the season for this Chiefs football team, is just how dynamic they are on offense. We'll talk about that tonight. We'll talk about the Texans, and even though they're 2-3, there's a lot of hope for this team, but those injuries are scary. We don't know the extent of all of them, but they did turn it into the J.J. Watt show tonight, so we do know what his injury is, and so we'll talk about what exactly these injuries mean for the Texans moving forward, and what does this AFC South division look like after what Jacksonville did today, the Titans without Mariota, and now this Texans team, which you don't really know what you're getting from them week to week, and now all these injuries. What to make of the AFC South? And look, don't look now, but Indy is only a game back after beating the San Francisco 49ers. This league is wacky, and this was another crazy week, and we'll talk about it on this program. But, of course, I'm your man, Louie T. Thank you for joining me here on Sunday Night Football Overtime. Chiefs get it done 42-34 over the Texans. If you haven't already done so, what are you waiting on? Subscribe to the Louie T Network for more great content in 2017 and beyond. We're changing the game. I want you to help us do that by simply hitting that subscribe button and becoming a member of the Louie T Network. Also, I've got a number of social media platforms that I am a part of: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. All of those are down in the description. So go ahead and click on the link, and it'll take you right where you need to go to be in sync with what I'm doing here on the Louie T Network. Also, if you want to donate to this channel, the link is in the description to do that via PayPal. There will be some alternate routes that you can take starting tomorrow. So be on the lookout for that. But as of right now, you can donate via PayPal. That is also in the description down below. So let's jump into this breakdown, shall we? And we start with the Chiefs. And their 5-0 record now, the only unbeaten team in the league. And this is a team right now that, like I said, they're a scary team. And that's exactly what they are, a complete team. And there aren't many teams in the league that can say that at this point in the season, that can hurt you in all three phases of the game. You saw the stat tonight. They haven't given up a special teams touchdown in the same period, in which they're second in the league with the most returns for touchdowns behind the Philadelphia Eagles. It's a remarkable feat that no other team can lay claim to right now, having given up no returns for touchdowns, yet having the amount of touchdown returns that they've had in such a short, condensed period of time. This team on special teams can hurt you. And they would have had another return for a touchdown if not for the Achilles injury suffered by Chiefs receiver Chris Conley. And I fear that he's gone for the entire season with a torn Achilles tendon. Time you see a guy go down like that and it's an Achilles injury, generally you're not going to hear them come back and say, oh, just strained his Achilles, just missed a torn Achilles. Nope, he probably blew his Achilles tendon out and he's probably going to be done for the season at a position where they could ill afford to lose a guy of the ilk of Chris Conley. And not saying Chris Conley's a big-time do-it-all receiver, but they're already thin at that position as it is. Now you're going to see a lot more of the Florida product, Robinson, hit the field. He had a nice catch on the opening possession to extend the drive on a third down to get his feet down after Alex Smith was able to escape the pocket and make a play. But it's getting pretty thin at receiver for this Chiefs team. Like I said, the one saving grace that they do have is that they're deep at tight end. You did lose your best, arguably your best offensive weapon in Travis Kelce tonight to a concussion. Don't know the extent of that injury. A lot of guys went down tonight in this game on both sides. The Texans were affected a lot more heavily than the Chiefs were, but the Chiefs could have some long-term effects leaving this game as well. But nonetheless, they can hurt you at receiver. I mean, they can hurt you on offense, as they did tonight so elegantly. I just love watching the Chiefs offensively because you just don't know what you're going to get from week to week. Many teams in this league can be very predictable. You know what they want to do. You know what their strategy is. You know, in a situation like this is what you're going to get. Me being a Redskins fan, I can tell you 3rd and 12, 3rd and 15, 3rd and 18, 3rd and 20, you're going to get some kind of slip screen, some kind of bubble screen, some kind of tunnel screen from the Redskins where they're getting the football in the hands of a playmaker with blockers out in front. And they're going to see if they can pop one. With the Chiefs, you don't know what you're going to get. On 3rd and 1, on 3rd and 7, on 3rd and 12, on 2nd and 9, on 2nd and 4, on 2nd and 2. You don't know what you're going to get. This Chiefs offense is fun to watch because Andy Reid is so diverse. Him and his coaching staff, Childress and all of those guys offensively do a great job of just mixing things up. And I've said this on a number of occasions that there isn't another coaching staff, there isn't another team in the league. Andy Reid, to me, does the best of any coach in the league of fitting his offensive play calling to the talents of the weapons that he has. Look, this Chiefs offense isn't the greatest in terms of offensive weaponry. You have some elite players. Tyreek Hill is elite. Travis Kelce is elite. And your running back has already established himself as an elite back in his rookie season thus far in just 5 games. So from that perspective, you say, yeah, they've got talent. But then you get past those three guys. And you saw just how different this offense looked when Kelsey wasn't able to come back out of the locker room after halftime. You saw just how, because they weren't being stopped in the first half of this game. They dominated. Kelsey leaves the field and doesn't come back after halftime. And all of a sudden, even though they still were able to move the football, it wasn't as efficient. It wasn't as dominant. You take one of those guys away, and now all of a sudden, Demetrius Harris and Travis, your other tight end, become bigger parts of this offense. And I like those guys, but they're not Travis Kelce. Then you go to the receiver position. If you take Tyreek Hill out of the mix, and now you're telling me Chris Conley may be gone as well, I mean, you're literally talking about Albert at receiver. You're talking about who else? I mean, you don't have much at receiver. If you take away Conley now, and you're telling me that you're not going to have Travis Kelce, there aren't many options at receiver. Like I said, you're going to see a lot more of Robinson out of Florida. You're probably going to have to see a lot more of Albert Wilson now. And this is not a team that can afford the injuries at receiver. But nonetheless, they don't scare you with a lot of the weapons that they have after you get past the big three. But those big three are huge. And what they do is they open up a lot of different opportunities for all of the surrounding guys like Albert Wilson, like Chris Conley, like DeMarcus Robinson, and all of those other guys on this team. And all of a sudden, those guys can hurt you in any given situation because of all the attention you have to pay to the big three, as I've mentioned. And so now a guy like DeAnthony Thomas can get you when he comes in the game on his one lone touch and get you for a touchdown on a jet sweep. The possibilities are endless, man. I heard someone describe this Chiefs offense as a whack-a-mole offense where you can hit one guy, knock him down, but then another one appears. And I think that's the perfect way to explain this Chiefs offense. It's just hard to prepare for because there are so many guys that can hurt you, and they're so athletic. And even the ones that you look and you kind of dismiss, like Albert Wilson, they'll get you too. He'll get you too. Albert Wilson will get you just like he got the Redskins late in that fourth quarter with a big catch that set up the field goal. He'll get you too. And so you sleep on Albert Wilson if you want. He'll get you. We know what Tyreek Hill is, and you saw in the fourth quarter just how much of a playmaker he can be on a deep ball that was huge. They were up 6, third and 9, third and 14, and they throw a bomb to Tyreek Hill, and he gets 2 feet in bounds. And yes, that was a catch. Barely, but it was a catch that set up the touchdown to DeAnthony Thomas. And then next thing you know, they explode and they run away with this game. And so it's plays like that from Hill. It's Travis Kelce and his dominance in the first half of this game. Remember, this guy didn't play in the second half of this game, yet he had 8 catches for 98 yards. Okay? He was dominant in the first half. You look at the running back position, and there may not be a better running back right now as a rookie. And you see what Fournette is doing out there in Jacksonville, and that's impressive. We saw what Dalvin Cook was doing in Minnesota before his injury cut his season short in Minnesota. But all of that pales in comparison to what's going on with Kareem Hunt right now in this Chiefs offense. And like I said, Andy Reid has done a phenomenal job of putting him in positions to succeed. A lot of shotgun, a lot of pistol, a lot of read option, a lot of different ways. And then those jet sweeps, those ghost jet sweep motions. You saw the one run he had where Tyreek Hill comes across the motion or the field in motion, and the fake jet sweep action kept Clowney and forced him to take 2 steps and widen out, opening up that C gap. And it was literally the Red Sea parting as he was able to cut it back, and there was nothing but green grass and opportunity for him to pick up about a good 15 or 20 yards. And that's what the diversity of this offense creates. Just a number of guys that can hurt you at any time. And even when guys like Tyreek Hill aren't touching the football, they still can hurt you, just like on that play there. Then a guy like West comes in. Wake up, Mr. West. Mr. West. Sarkandrick West comes in the game, and he gets you for 2 touchdowns. This offense is just crazy because they're not household names. They're not guys that necessarily scare you when you're game planning for the Chiefs. But in any given moment, any one of these Chiefs players on the offensive side of the football can hurt you. And it's because of the way that Andy Reid calls these plays and the way they draw it up, and they show you different looks. You may get the same play, but out of a different formation. How many times have we seen a shovel pass from this team this season? We didn't see any tonight, which was amazing that they were able to still show us different things we haven't seen. We didn't see one single shovel pass, which has been dominant for them all year this year thus far, except for last game versus the Redskins. Redskins did a pretty good job of scouting it, and that's probably why you didn't see it this week. I will be amazed if we don't see a shovel pass at some point next week, however, for this Chiefs football team, because it's been so successful for them this season. But we've seen it out of like 4 different formations and different looks, and we saw Wildcat with Travis Kelce a number of times throughout the season. We didn't see that tonight. They didn't need it tonight. They did so many different things. This team is amazing to watch. They had a play where the offensive linemen are standing up, they're pointing, and it's looking like everybody's kind of getting set and making sure everybody knows what their assignment is. They snap the football, all the linemen are standing up, and they take off running, and they're able to all get to their blocks. All of them had reach blocks on that play, essentially. They were all able to get to their blocks because they were already standing up. They had to get out of their stance. And players on the defensive side of football weren't ready because they weren't expecting the ball to be snapped. And all of a sudden, you get an 8 to 10 yard gain out of a play that they haven't seen before. We haven't seen before. It's amazing. It's just fun to watch this offense. It really is. And when they're clicking on all cylinders, I'm telling you right now, they're going to be a tough team to beat. I don't know about this defense. I'm not sold on this defense, but this offense, because we know in their nature, embedded in their football team, in their DNA as a team, is the ability to not turn the football over. That's in their DNA. Okay? They're not going to beat themselves. This is what we've seen from them over the years. This is the one thing that has carried over, that was something that we said, hey, if they could ever put this together, they don't turn it over, they don't beat themselves, they're going to be a tough team to deal with. And the one thing that scares me with this team is the defense isn't what I would like it to be right now, but you're missing D Ford. You're missing Taba Ali. Okay, you're missing Airberry, which he's not coming back. So we don't even need to talk about EB because he's not going to be a guy that can help you at any point this season moving forward. But at some point, Ali will be back. At some point, D Ford will be back. And you got to like your chances once you get healthy, because right now, one of your biggest deficiencies is getting to the quarterback. I don't think you do that well enough right now. And so I think that's one of the reasons your secondary can be picked apart, because, like I said, I watched them against the Redskins, wasn't impressed. Thought the Redskins moved the football effectively, but I thought the offense did a better job of just dominating time of possession, which they did again tonight. And so I thought the defense, again, they were able to get off the field when they needed to, when the score was 34 to 20. And they needed to stop, because if the Texans were to go down and score in that instance, cut it back to a one-score game, this thing was going to be tight. And they got the stop that they needed. And boom, just like that, Tyreek Hill runs back to punt for a touchdown, and this game is over. And so other than that, though, they gave it up. I mean, I saw, and really in the first half, I thought the defense did a good job of just getting off the field. That's what the name of the game was early, get off the field. And they did that. The Texans helped them out with a penalty on the first drive where they were moving the football, had the big penalty. Next thing you know, you're no longer in field goal range. But I thought they did a really good job, did the Chiefs defense early in this game, of just making sure they kept the Texans off the field and allowed the offense to do what it is they do. And really the offense, I thought, did a great job of dominating the football. At one point in the first half, I think the time of possession was 19 minutes for the Chiefs to 4 minutes for the Texans. I mean, it was ridiculous. And it was the same thing we saw from them last week on Monday night versus the Redskins. Just a dominant time of possession imbalance. And this Chiefs offense can do that to you, and you saw it again. And that's the difference. Like I said at the top of the show, the difference with this Chiefs team and why they have the capability of winning a Super Bowl, which in past years, I never would have uttered the words Super Bowl and Chiefs in the same sentence, because I didn't think this offense was good enough. That's why they went out and got Patrick Mahomes, because they said, Alex Smith isn't good enough. We don't score enough points. They looked at that AFC divisional round loss to the Steelers last year, and they said, we don't score enough points. We're not going to win a Super Bowl because we can't beat the Patriots. We can't beat the Steelers. We can't beat the upper echelon teams in the AFC because we don't score enough points. Well, They score enough points now. Now, the difference now is I don't know if they can beat a team 17-13 anymore. I don't think this defense is capable of doing that as constructed. Maybe when they get some more pressure with Holly and your other rush outside linebacker coming back, D Ford, maybe when you get some of those guys back, you'll be able to maybe apply more pressure because between Houston and Jones on your interior, that's all you got. Those are the only two guys that can get pressure, and that's not on a consistent basis right now. Justin Houston isn't winning enough for me. Jones, he's dominant inside when he wants to be, but that's not consistent enough. And so you're not getting enough pressure on the quarterback. And as we've seen this year, you haven't blitzed a lot. You know, your defensive coordinator, Sutton, he's not looking to blitz a lot. He's like, you know, I'm going to drop 8. Drop 8 in coverage and see if a team can beat us that way. But we're not coming after you so you can beat us with a blitz. We're just going to drop back soft, and if you get us, you got us. But if you don't, we did our jobs. So defensively, I'm not sold on this team. Teams are going after Terrence Mitchell. He gave up another deep, even though that was really solid coverage on the deep ball to Will Fuller. He still gave it up. And teams are going after Terrence Mitchell. I thought he actually did a solid job on Nuke for much of the night before Nuke got him on the deep ball in the end zone, going up and just taking the ball from him, which is what he does. But teams are going after Mitchell. Teams are going after the cornerback out of Rice, Gaines, Phillip Gaines. Teams are going after him. There are going to be issues there, you know. And even and as much as I love Marcus Peters can be had too. The Redskins went after him and scored 2 touchdowns on him last week. So even he isn't off limits. You can go after him. You just got to pick your spots. Like I've said, this Chiefs secondary, to me, is average at best, and Marcus Peters is a head case. And we saw it again tonight. We saw it last week when he was cussing at fans. We saw it again this week when he was snapping on the sideline, and Justin Houston had to try to talk some sense into him, and he was kicking helmets and stuff. Guy's crazy, but he's a really good football player. This defense, though, it worries me, but as long as this offense and this special teams unit are playing as good, your field goal kicking situation couldn't be better. When Cairo Santos comes back, you got a dilemma on your hands. What do you do? Because there are teams out there that would die to have a guy like Harrison Butker on their football team. And you've got 2 good kickers now because Cairo Santos is a hell of a kicker. I think Butker may have a bigger leg than Santos, believe it or not. And so now you got a decision to make when Santos comes back because he's also an outstanding kicker. And maybe you can trade one of these guys. Look, dangle him out there and say, hey, look, man, I got a kicker here for you for a 4th-round pick. He can be yours. See if somebody is willing to pick up the phone and make that deal because you got 2 good field goal kickers on your roster right now. And you're going to have to get rid of one of them. You can't keep both of them. You can't hold up a roster spot with 2 kickers. So that'll be interesting to see what you have to do there. But Harrison Butker looks outstanding right now. And every one of his kicks tonight, straight down the middle. So if this guy was ever lacking for confidence after he missed his first career field goal, he sure is not now, as this guy is uber confident, and those footballs are splitting the upright, splitting the difference right down the middle. So with your special teams doing that, Tyreek Hill doing what he did tonight. Speaking of which, I got to talk about Tyreek Hill, and I got to talk about Kareem Hunt before we go on to the Texans side of things. God, Tyreek Hill is so good. Scotty's so fast. And the thing I love about him, too, is his development as a receiver. Because when he first came into the league, I said, he's a gadget guy. He's Tavon Austin 2.0. He's way better than Tavon Austin because Tavon Austin never developed the skills to be a really good receiver. Everything was underneath with him. Tyreek Hill can actually run the route tree. And the beauty of what he brings to the table is that electric dynamic speed. Corners are so afraid of getting blown by that he's getting 7 to 10 yards of space right off the snap. Guys are bailing as he eats up a little bit of their cushion. He threatens their cushion. They're turning and bailing, and he's stopping at 5, 7, 10 yards and getting easy pitch and catch first downs. It's beautiful when on 3rd and 7, you just have Tyreek Hill line up, threaten a corner, step on his toes. That guy freaks out, turns and bails, opens up his hips, runs away, and Hill stops on a dime right at the sticks, catches the football, turns up the field for an extra 3 yards, and he's got a first down. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I saw him do it against the Redskins. I can't tell you how many times I saw him do it tonight. It's beautiful when you, as a receiver, have that much speed, you scare the defenders that much that You threaten them, and they give you a free 10 yards. But that's what Tyreek Hill brings to the table. And then after they do that 3 or 4 times, guess what? Then he actually blows by you and turns on the Jets and uses it to run by you like he did on that 3rd and 14, which was huge in this game. And God, Alex Smith had pressure in his lap. He's getting hit or having a lineman bowled back into him as he's throwing his football, and he drops it right in the bucket. God damn it, Alex Smith is playing at a high level, another level, one that we've never seen Alex Smith play at like this in his career. Right now, after 5 games, you can't look me in my eyes and tell me Alex Smith isn't the MVP of this league right now. He hasn't thrown an interception yet. I think he threw 3 more touchdown passes tonight, if I'm not mistaken. So that's 11 touchdowns, no interceptions, passer rating through the roof. He leads the NFL in that. I think he only had 8 incompletions again tonight, and he's driving the football down the field now, folks. This isn't dun-dun-dun-dun, Captain Checkdown. It's no longer Captain Checkdown. The man is pushing the football down the field. It is amazing how accurate he is. Now, I remember where he couldn't hit the backside of a barn deep at one point, and now all of a sudden he can't miss down the field. That 3rd and 14 throw was amazing. It was amazing. Pressure in your face, lineman getting bowled back into you. You're throwing a fadeaway 45-yard deep ball to the sideline with pure, unadulterated accuracy. Couldn't have went up and handed it to him any better. Breastfed the man. Beautifully done. Tyreek Hill, they were just talking about on telecast. Wow, haven't really seen Tyreek Hill be a huge contributor on special teams this year. Oh, yeah? Okay, take this. Peace. Deuces. I'm out. I mean, this guy is ridiculous. What he brings to the table is just ridiculous. And then, of course, Kareem Hunt, another 100-yard effort. It's crazy because you can hold this guy down for a quarter, maybe even 2, but eventually he's going to get you. Eventually he's going to get you. He's going to get you. I watched the Redskins dominate him for essentially 2.5 quarters, and he started to rev it up in the 3rd quarter. And as they got into the 4th quarter, chunk after chunk after chunk after chunk, and then next thing you look up, he's got 100 yards rushing, and you're like, wow, the Redskins at one point had this guy like 9 rushes for like 13 yards. And then all of a sudden, he's got 27 or 24 rushes for 114 yards. You're like, how the hell did he get there? Tonight, at one point, it was 9 rushes, 7 yards. At one point, it was 11 rushes, 11 yards. And then all of a sudden, he's got 27 rushes for 101 yards. And I'm like, how the hell did he make it to 100 yards? That's Kareem Hunt. That's this Chiefs offense. They wear you down. They keep time of possession on their side. They run a ton of offensive snaps. They wear your defense down. And then Kareem Hunt starts to go to work. He did it again tonight. He doesn't fumble the football. This Chiefs team in general, they don't make mistakes. How many teams around the league have we seen muff a punt in a key spot? Watch the Rams do it again today. Watch the Cowboys do it against the Rams last week. Watch the Redskins do it a couple of weeks ago against the Raiders. We see teams muff punts all the time. Not the Chiefs. We see teams fumble kickoffs all the time. Not the Chiefs. We see teams throw interceptions, batted balls in the air. Quarterback gets hit from behind, fumbles the football. Not the Chiefs. And even when they do fumble, like tonight, with your tight end Travis, still he recovers his own fumble. Not the Chiefs. They don't turn it over. They just don't make those types of mistakes. Penalties are a big problem for this Chiefs team early in the season. They didn't have a problem with penalties on Monday night versus the Redskins. Didn't have a problem with penalties tonight versus the Texans. They're even cleaning up the minor deficiencies that they have. This team is going to be tough to beat. If you're going to beat them, you're going to have to play sound football. You can't make mistakes. You can't turn it over. You can't have penalties. And you're going to have to find a way to get them off the field on 3rd downs. And for the last 2 weeks, and for much of this season, teams have found it hard to get the Chiefs off the field on 3rd downs. They're extending drives, they're wearing out defenses, and they're scoring points. They scored 30 last week, even though really 23 was the number, or 29. They scored 29 last week. Even though 23 was really the number, they get the fumble at the end, but it doesn't matter. They scored 29 last week. They scored 42 this week. They scored like 42 or 45 versus the Patriots in week 1. They scored 31 versus the Eagles in week 2. They put up 24 against the Chargers, and they only needed 17. They were content with 17, and they ended up with 24 after a big Kareem Hunt run for a touchdown. This team scoring points. This team is scary this season. They're 5-0, and they're 5-0, and they're damn good for a reason. As you get to the Texans, really disappointing start to the game. You lose Merciless on the first possession. You lose Watt on the first possession, and it just went downhill from there defensively. You couldn't get a stop in the first half. Even though you were able to keep them out of the end zone for the most part, you did give up 2 Sarkandrick West touchdowns in the first half, but you also gave up 3 field goals. That touchdown right before the half was a backbreaker because you had just got some momentum. You had just gotten your first touchdown of the game. It's 16-7. You feel good, okay? You say to yourself, hey, if we can just go to the halftime break at 16-7, we get ball after half. It's a totally different ball game. We've got the momentum. We can be right back in this thing. We go out and get a touchdown or even a field goal after halftime. It's a 1-score game. So you feel good about where you are. And instead, you give the ball back to the Chiefs, and they move it right down the field, and you got a chance to get off the field on a 3rd down. You let Alex Smith roll out, and he's under pressure. You let him hit Sarkandrick West, and you're so worried about him going out of bounds that you let him cut in on one guy. The one guy's like, nope, you're not getting out of bounds. You're not going to stop this clock. And he said, oh, I don't want to go out of bounds. I just want to score a touchdown. Don't worry about it. And so he cuts in, makes another guy miss, and gets into the end zone. And just like that, all of that work you put in to get back, you scratched, you clawed, you got a great possession, you ran it, you had success. Watson finds Nuke in the back of the end zone. You're back in this game. And just like that, it's 23-7 at halftime. And that hurt. That was a dagger, man, right in the chest. Boy, did that one sting. And I thought that those injuries took their toll because you got no pressure on Alex Smith tonight. None. I mean, he did whatever. And when he didn't like what he saw, he just rolled out of the pocket to his right. And I don't understand when teams will understand if Alex Smith is rolling out of the pocket, he's going to run to his right. That's where he's comfortable. That's where he makes plays. So if you're rushing off that right side, the defense is left, the offensive right side, don't overcommit up the field. Don't go up and lose contain. You must keep contained against Alex Smith. If you rush up the field and you don't beat your man, you must spin back inside and go back up the field and cut off that lane for Alex Smith, because if he escapes outside the pocket, you're doomed. Either he's going to run for 8 to 10 or he's going to throw it to a wide open receiver that's making himself available, like he did on that first possession to Robinson, like he did to Conley, like they did in that game to West and all kinds of guys throughout the course of this game. You must keep contained on Alex Smith, and I thought the Texans did a horrible job of doing that. I thought they did a great job of stopping the run early on in this game, but later on it took its toll, and they were able to get chunks on the ground in this game. But defensively, the Merciless injury, he's got a chest injury. I've seen a lot of guys go down with these chest injuries of late. Don't know the extent of his injury. It didn't look good, and he never returned. We didn't get much of an update on him because it turned into the J.J. Watt show after he got injured. God forbid something happened to J.J. Watt, boy. They turned it Sunday Night Football into Sunday Night J.J. Watt. God damn, we watching this man walk off the field. We watching this man get on the cart. We watching this man go into the little blue tent. We watch this man come out of the blue tent. We watch this man get onto the cart. We watch this man drive to the locker room. Watch the man get off the damn cart and go into the x-ray room. They showed us the x-ray room when he was still in the damn x-ray room. We showed the ambulance outside of the x-ray room now, fluffing his pillow, waiting for him to come out. Then his ass comes out. Then we show him getting onto the damn ambulance. And then we get 10-minute on-the-hour updates from Michelle Tafoya. What the hell's wrong with J.J. Watt? God damn it. Yes, it's J.J. Watt. We love J.J. Watt. He's a great player. But God damn it, do you do that for anybody else that gets injured? I've never seen one player take over a game after he gets injured. Never. Ever. That shit was ridiculous. So goddamn, am I watching a reality TV show featuring J.J. Watt, or am I watching Sunday Night Football? In any event, he did something to his tibia, I think they said. Some kind of fracture. Doesn't sound good. I don't know the exact phrases that they use or what exact bone that he fractured. They showed the bone on the tele. Obviously, they showed everything they could about this injury, and they wanted to give us a direct diagnosis, and they wanted to tell us everything they could because we were dying to know what was wrong with J.J. Watt, as if there aren't 8 million players around the league injured, and they don't do that for him. But in any event, yeah, I get it. It's J.J. Watt. I get it. Nonetheless, that's a big injury. You know, I've heard, and you heard Al Michaels on the telecast talking about how Des Bryant had the same injury and he only missed like 3 weeks. But again, you don't know the severity of it. I got, you know, all these media outlets want to be the first one to report situations. I've already had ESPN and Bleacher Report give me 2 conflicting stories along with Al Michaels. So I don't know who to believe. Ian Rappaport basically said, well, he's out for the season. I don't ever believe Ian Rappaport when he says anything because he's wrong so often. But that's the nature of this business. Guys want to be the first one with the story, so they'll just blurt something out. He may be done for the season. It didn't look good. He didn't look like a guy that was going to be back in a month. So I would like to think that he's done for the season. I'm going to tell you right now, if he's done for the season, he may be done for his career. J.J. Watt was already thinking about, man, you know, I'm not the same player that I once was. And he already said, once I'm not that guy anymore, I'm going to probably hang it up. And I can tell you what, after you have so many surgeries and it becomes not fun anymore, football isn't what it used to be. It's not fun for you anymore. And it takes even more of you to become the player that you once were. I think he might say, you know what, I made a ton of money. I had a lot of fun. I've already been recognized as one of the elite players. He might already be a Hall of Fame football player already. In what he's done in his career, he could probably say, you know what, I'm done with this, man. I want to have a life. He's got tons of money, tons of endorsements, and they're not going to stop even when he's done. This might be it for J.J. Watt. It wouldn't shock me if after this diagnosis and it comes back and it says, look, man, this is an 8 to 12 month recovery process from this injury. And he looks around and he says, you know what, man, I don't feel like doing this again. I did it last year. I've done it with the elbow a number of times. I just don't feel like doing this again. I don't know if I'll ever get back to where I was 3 years ago when I had 20 sacks. I'm done, man. It wouldn't shock me. It wouldn't. But to lose Merciless and Watt in the same game, don't know the extent of the Merciless injury. It was a rough night defensively for the Texans. And even though we think this Texas defense is really good, look at what they've been giving up this season. I mean, yeah, you played against Tom Brady. And, you know, Tom TBE, he can do that to you. You give up 36 in that game and you lose. You give up 42 tonight. It wasn't all on the defense. You give up a touchdown on special teams, but still, give up 42 tonight. Defense didn't do you any favors by getting off the field. I thought you should have kept A.J. Boye and got rid of Jonathan Joseph. You saw it tonight. Joseph was getting beat. A.J. Boye, meanwhile, is balling in Jacksonville. I just thought that was not the move to make. But, again, we're not here to have revisionist history. And, you know, obviously, hindsight is 2020. I always, all along, said A.J. Boye is a baller. You can't let him out of your building if you're the Texans. But, you know, it is what it is. Bottom line is, I'm not sold on this Texans defense. They can't get to the quarterback. You take Merciless and Watt away. Even Watt didn't have any sacks, he still was putting pressure on the quarterback. You take him, you can't say, well, we're going to just put Covington in there. He'll get after it. Covington's not even collapsing the pocket. I was watching him get his ass whooped by Mitchell Schwartz over there at right tackle. You know, and then, you know, you take Merciless off the field. There's no replacement for that. You know, all you got is Clowney now, and it's not enough. You're not getting to the quarterback enough. So all of a sudden now, you got time to throw in this Texas team, and that secondary, it's okay. It's not great. You can throw the football on those boys. And so it's going to be rough for this Texas defense, man. One that I already wasn't all that impressed with because I looked up and teams were doing some things against this defense as it was. Now you take away 2 of your better players, if not your 2 best defenders, good luck. You're going to need it moving forward. And you give up 42 tonight, and damn, I don't see it getting much better. I can tell you this. There is a silver lining in tonight's loss. You get the Cleveland Browns at home next week. So you're going to win that game. So there's that. But in any event, go to the offense, and Deshaun Watson is outstanding. I love that guy. I love his mindset. I love his ability to create off schedule when nothing's there. I love his ability to give his receivers a chance. That throw to Will Fuller the fifth, come on, man. Come on. To elude a rusher, to have the presence of mind to take the ball out of your throwing hand, move it to the offhand so that you can shed the defender, then put it back in the throwing arm, the throwing hand, and then in one smooth motion, launch it 50 yards in stride in the perfect location for a touchdown. Come on, man. Who's doing that? Who's doing that? Maybe Carson Wentz? That's it? Like, who else is doing that? I mean, there are a lot of quarterbacks capable, but who's actually doing that? Man, that's impressive. And I thought he did some good things tonight. Thought he gave his receivers opportunities to win tonight. And they won some. They didn't win some. The run game I thought was solid. You know how I feel about it's always Miller time for me. You know, you had Deontay Foreman fumble tonight, which that hurt you. You know, just when you thought, all right, we may be able to get back into things, boom, he fumbles the football, and that turns into more Chiefs points. Bottom line is, this offense has enough juice to be dangerous this season. The question is the consistency of this football team. I talked about how this Chiefs team was a complete football team. How complete of a football team is this Texans team? That is a huge question. Will Fuller almost broke off a punt return. They're going to need some contributions from special teams this year because this defense, down with some serious injuries, but they're not great. They're not the same Texans defense this year. We've seen that already with the amount of points they've given up. This defense, I don't think, will be in positions this season to win games outright with just a strong, elite defensive performance. We saw them take over games like they did on Monday night, week 3? Versus the Bengals, where they went on Thursday night, and Deshaun Watson scored a touchdown rushing, and that was enough to win the game, essentially. A couple field goals. They were able to win that game. That was a defensive gem, but that was with Cincinnati struggling with Ken Zampese as their offensive coordinator. Like, they can't do that to many more teams in this league. They're not going to be able to do that. They could do that in the past where they could dominate a game and win it 13-10, win it 16-10, win it 19-13. They're not capable of doing that anymore. Like, you're going to have to score 27, 31, 34 to win now. I think you're going to have to outscore teams because I'm not sure this defense is capable of keeping teams down. We're going to see. You know, it's a week-to-week league. You're going to keep the Browns down next week, you know, most likely. And so that's good to know that you can probably get back to 500 next week. And this division is wide open like it is every year. But it's a different dynamic this year. Everyone in the division has a shot. No longer can you say, well, we got 2 wins over Jacksonville. Probably going to beat Tennessee at least once, probably twice because we own them. And we're going to have to just find a way to beat Indy twice. Not this year. Jacksonville's already beat you once, and that was at home. Okay? Now you got to go to Jacksonville again at some point. You got Indy twice. And probably by the time you see Indy, they're going to have Andrew Luck. So, damn, you didn't get to miss Andrew Luck. The Titans will probably have Marcus Mariota the next time you see him, and that'll be in Tennessee. You got him once already. That was great. Blew him out, but you got him again. And so this division is wide open. Jacksonville doesn't look like they're playing around. They're not a consistent football team, but at the rate they're going to be 8-8. The rate the rest of this division is going, 8-8 will be enough to win this division. So Jacksonville is winning one, losing one, winning one, losing one. And they're not just winning one, losing one. They're whooping ass, losing one, whooping ass, losing one, whooping ass, losing one. That's what they're doing. So right now, next week they'll probably lose. But then the week after that, they probably going to whoop somebody's ass. And so if you're the Texans, you got to find a way to be a little bit more consistent as a football team. Special teams going to have to chip in. Defense going to have to be a little bit better. Offense is going to need to continue to score points. But Watson is legit. The running game is legit. And these receivers, they're coming together. And I told you Will Fuller would make a difference in that he has in just 2 weeks. And you see the impact that he has on his team. You just can't leave him one-on-one. You do, and your end result is what you got tonight, a 55-yard touchdown or so. You know, he can do that. One quick strike play ability. You know, one hit a quitter is what we call guys like that. He's got that ability. And so you saw that tonight, but it wasn't enough as they fall to the Kansas City Chiefs 42-34. Texans dropped to 2-3 on the season. Chiefs go to 5-0. Let's get to some of your comments if anybody's out there watching and see what you guys have to say. So, let's get to your comments, shall we? Andrew Kim says, really sucks both Watt and Odell were injured on potentially out for the season. Yeah, my dad, I actually watched the games with my pops. Love watching football with my dad, man. He's so knowledgeable. He's a football junkie just like myself. I get my love of the game from him, and it's always fun to go and kick it back with Pops and watch the games. And he said, man, I haven't seen this many injuries to key players on so many teams in ever, really. I mean, the injuries are so rampant around the league. I mean, look, Mariota didn't play today. They lost that game because he didn't play. The Raiders didn't have Derek Carr today. They lost that game because he didn't play. Eric Berry was lost for the season after the first game of the season. Odell, we watched the Giants game today. They lost 4 out of their 5 receivers that they dressed. They lost Harris. They lost Brandon Marshall, who had to be carted off. They lost Odell Beckham, who had to be carted off. And they lost Shepard, who limped off and didn't return to the game in the second quarter. They literally were, on that final drive of the game, they were down to Roger Lewis Jr. and 3 tight ends. That's all they could put on the field as receivers. 3 tight ends and 1 receiver, and then the rest of the guys had to be running backs. It was that bad for the Giants. Like, injuries are just running through this league so rampantly. It's ridiculous. You know, countless guys are done for the season. You know, every week someone goes down, and it's a catastrophic injury. We see role players go down. I mean, the list is long, and the players are so impactful that are going down to these injuries. It's amazing, man. Every week. And we saw 2 of the best in the league go down on this night, and both are probably gone for the season. AK also says, not sure any team can compete with the Chiefs. They are legit, but Watson gave them a run for their money. Hopkins, Fuller tandem making the offense explosive with Watson and Miller. Yes, I told you, they've got the weapons offensively to compete, do the Texans. With Watson at the helm, his ability to create with his legs puts pressure on the defense. With Fuller, you get the ability now to stretch the field, which I didn't think you had without him. And what that also brings is now one-on-one matchups for Nuke. So now all of a sudden, you can't double Nuke. You can't put the safety over the top and say, all right, we're just going to take Nuke away and make him run everything short. Now Nuke can actually run some vertical routes, and as you saw tonight, you just throw it up to Nuke. Most guys, he's going to out-jump. He's going to out-body and out-physical for the rock. And so he gets one-on-one with a corner. He's going to elevate, put his nutsack on his helmet, and go up and get the football. And so all of a sudden now it becomes a chore trying to defend this Texans offense. The question is, can they play enough defense to stop the other team from scoring one more point than them when the game's all said and done? That's the question. But yeah, there are teams that can give this, because the Chiefs, I think, I've seen nights where Tyreek Hill wasn't a factor, like against the Redskins. I don't know if you can totally stop Hunt in the backfield, but you can slow him down. And I think you can get to Alex Smith. You got to have a dynamic pass rush. Coming into this game, he was one of the most sacked quarterbacks in the league. Redskins got him 4 times on Monday night, and they had some opportunities in the game with the Redskins last week, and we've seen teams prior to that get to Alex Smith. Texans weren't really able to do that tonight for the most part. But if you've got a dynamic pass rush, and we're going to start to see that once they get in the division. Right now, they're playing teams that can't get after the quarterback. But once they get in the division, they probably will see the best set of pass rushers once they start playing teams in the division. Denver, obviously, Boza and company with the Chargers. And then I think, if I'm not mistaken, Ingram, when they played the Chargers, had like 3 sacks in that game. Like, you can get after Alex Smith, and they're going to see some of the best pass rushers in the league once they get into divisional play on a consistent basis. But the Chiefs are going to be tough to beat if you make mistakes. And the Texans made some mistakes in this game. And you make those mistakes, you pay for those mistakes against a Chiefs team that just simply doesn't beat itself. Andrew Kim also says, pretty mad at my picks this week. Best I can do is 8 wins, but Ravens got the W and the offense actually looked decent. The Raiders' offense is horrible. I mean, Raiders' defense is horrible. So I'd taper your excitement. Haven't watched the game yet, so I don't want to crush your Ravens. But I saw Mike Wallace had a ton of yards. Flacco numbers didn't look too bad. But again, it's the Raiders' defense. The Raiders stink defensively. And once you contain Khalil Mack, you can pretty much do whatever you want to do to that Raiders defense. And so they had some success. I watched the game. I'll tell you what I think once I have a chance to lay eyes on it. But it was another rough week because and this wasn't one of those weeks where it was impossible to get 10, 11 wins. I could easily see somebody going 12-2 this week. If you just made the right picks, you could have had a really good week this week. It wasn't a ton of upsets. You just had to make the right picks. And if you didn't, then you might have had another rough week. And I know I had a rough week, but I'm not disappointed in my picks this week. This was one of those weeks. It is what it is. I thought teams had chances, Teams had chances, but they didn't get it done. So Pepe, the YouTuber, says, we are cursed. Last year we had a dominant defense with a mediocre offense. Now we have a good offense, but our defense just got crippled. It's rough, man. It's going to be rough for your team moving forward. Pepe, the YouTuber, says, bruh, now Watson threw for 5 touchdowns again, and we at least went down swinging. Yeah, that's what I said. This team never stopped fighting in this game. Watson has 9 touchdown passes in the last 2 weeks and 10 touchdowns total accounted for. He rushed for a touchdown last week versus Tennessee, in addition to 4 touchdowns passed in that game. And then this week, 5 touchdowns passing in this game. He's just been outstanding. He's been unreal the last 2 weeks. And really, you could go back to the last 3 weeks because I thought he was outstanding versus the Patriots, even though he threw 2 interceptions in that game. I thought he was outstanding in that game as well. David Johnson says, not sure how I feel after this game. It baffles me that the Texans always seem to start slow and at the very last moment finish strong. What are your thoughts? I don't know if that's going to happen for you guys this year. It's a long season still. You're only 5 games in. The biggest problem I see with this team is that you've relied on this defense for so long. And now the defense, I don't think is going to be able to bail you out this year. So now you're going to have to rely on this offense. And in this league, defense travels, offense does not. In any given week, this Texans offense can be silenced or at least slowed down. And if the defense continues to play the way that they've played over the last 3 weeks, take that Tennessee game out. Because once you took Mariota out of that game, they didn't stand a chance. But you saw what you did against the Patriots. You saw what you did here. I think that's what you're going to see from this team. A team that can be scored upon, a team that may give up 30-plus points a number of times moving forward because of the extent of the injuries. And that the fact that you just can't get to the quarterback now. Teams are going to have opportunities to push the football down the field, extend drives, and get into the end zone. And so this division is so wide open now. I told you I thought the Texans were going to take a step back this year. I told you I thought this was going to be a 7-9 team. I haven't moved off of that. I think they're going to be a highly competitive football team. If the ball bounces their way, they could easily do what they've done the last 3 seasons and go 9-7 and win this division. But it's going to take a lot of effort out of them, more from the offense. And I think the defense is going to take a step back moving forward because of these injuries. And then the big question mark is, can Deshaun Watson continue to play the way that he's played thus far? If the answer to that is yes, and the offense can continue on this torrid pace that they've been on the last 3 weeks, it'll make it pretty interesting for this Texas team moving forward. But I just don't see them being able to sustain the level of offensive, efficiency and firepower that they've had these last 3 weeks. I just don't see them being able to sustain that. Carlos Garcia says, my man Louie with the fresh cut. I needed it, man. I was out of control, man. I had to have it. I had to have it. Pepe, the YouTuber, says, yep, I don't think I want to see the replay of that Achilles anymore. How am I going to be a doctor in the future? Shaking my head. Hey, look, man, if you're going to be a doctor, you're going to have to see some nasty shit, man. And as a professional football watcher over the years, I've seen gruesome injuries. They never get any easier to stomach, but you become a lot more numb to some of these injuries and are able to just look at them. Like that Odell Beckham, I don't know if you guys have seen that injury. That was pretty nasty. You know, literally the defender landed on his ankle, bent him backwards, and all of his weight was being pushed onto his ankle as Odell was going in the opposite direction of his ankle. It was pretty nasty. But I've gotten accustomed to seeing those type of injuries. It's the ones where the bone is poking out. Those are the ones, or the ankle is turned the opposite way of the leg. Those are the ones that are just so graphic and you're like, oh my God, I don't want to see that again. Those are the ones that get me. But just the ones like the Achilles injury, yeah, that's freaky, but I've seen that enough to not be moved by that. The Odell injury, I've seen that enough to not be moved. It's the guy that has his legs sticking out and you're like, oh my God. Those are the ones that still get me when I see him. Camden Dorian says, JJ is the biggest injury-prone player ever. He seems strong, but he always falls to an injury, and he always is the biggest overrated player. I don't get it. Now, I don't agree with that statement. He does get injured. He has been injured a lot of late, but when he early in his career, he didn't get injured really at all, or at least nothing that he couldn't play through of late. And you have seen this with players. Once you get injured once, and those floodgates open, you're more susceptible and prone to getting injured in the future. And so we've seen that with J.J. Watt. We've seen it with Gronk now. Do we think any less of Gronk because he can't stay healthy? No, because when he plays, he's a dominant football player. Same thing with J.J. Watt. My criticism wasn't with J.J. Watt when he got injured. My criticism was with the coverage of J.J. Watt. God damn it. The man got injured, okay? Let the man be injured in peace. You give me an update on him like you would. How many times did we hear about Whitney Merciless's injury? Did you hear about it after the one time they just told us it was a chest injury and he wasn't coming back? Did you hear about that injury again? Hell no. We didn't get on the minute updates, on the hour updates, visual proof that the man is not coming back and driving off in the end. Did we get that for anybody else? That's the only, it's the same thing with Tim Tebow. I don't hate or dislike Tim Tebow. I dislike the coverage of Tim Tebow. Which is why the man couldn't get a job in the NFL, because teams are like, it's not Tim Tebow himself, even though if he decided to play a different position, he'd probably be of more value to NFL teams. It's because he's not good as a quarterback, one. And two, if you sign him, you get unwarranted hype and a bunch of attention that you just don't want. And it's not his fault. It's the media's fault. Same thing with J.J. Watt. That's not his fault. Blackbird Blitz says, can we put the rest that the myth that the Pittsburgh Steelers are a good team? 5 picks is not an off. It's a trend. I'm not going to write the Pittsburgh. It's a week-to-week league. What don't you guys understand about that? It's a week-to-week league. The Steelers could look like straight absolute garbage this week. They play the Chiefs next week. I bet you any amount of money they win that game next week in Arrowhead. Bet you money they win that game next week. Okay? That's what this league is about. Did anybody think the Jacksonville Jaguars, after losing to the Jets last week, were going to come to Pittsburgh and do what they did this week? No, because you never know. That's why this league is the way that it is. That's the beauty of the National Football League. So no, I'm not willing to put the myth away, because I still think when it's all said and done, the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to be among the AFC's best, and they're going to have a shot to play for the Super Bowl. Eric Villa says, Deontay Foreman was mad after that fumble. Yeah, that one run where he ran a couple dudes over and was carrying a defender. Sometimes it takes a turnover to wake up that inner giant, that inner beast in guys, and he played like a madman after that. Blackbird Blitz says, he says, why are we looking at the Giants versus the Broncos in the overtime menu? Because that's next Sunday's game, and what a game that's going to be. Not looking forward to that garbage. I will say this, though. After that game next week on Sunday Night Football, we get a ton of good football games back to back to back. So once we get that piece of garbage off of our itinerary in week 6, week 7's a good one, week 8's a good one, week 9's a good one, week 10's a good one. So We just got to get through because the Giants, they may not score next week versus the Broncos in Denver. That one's going to get ugly. With all the injuries that they have, and they're 0-5, and I think a lot of guys in that locker room are about to start checking out because they are done. It's going to implode in New York. It's going to get ugly, and next week may be literally the antithesis of where this Giants team is going for the remainder of the season. And I venture to say that next week may be as bad as it gets. They're going to get embarrassed next week, and I'm not looking forward to watching that trash. But that's why you're looking at that game on the menu. Silver V says, I'm not worried about our defense. We all knew that it could be an ups and downs in the secondary when Barry got hurt. Yeah, I'm worried about your defense. You don't have to be. I'll be worried for you about your defense, because I think if you don't win this year, your defense is going to be the problem. Because we see this offense is dynamic, but they're not going to be dynamic every week. They're not going to have their fastball every week. And when they don't, you need the defense to step in and pick them up. And I'm not sure if this defense is capable of doing that this year or not. We'll see. Blackbird Blitz says, last week someone suggested the Lions coach was a front runner for Coach of the Year, and I said Casey and Skins had coaches that are in the running. Your thoughts? It's still early in the season. You know, the bottom could fall out of anybody's season at this point. You're right at that place in the season where your season could go one or two ways. I mean, you look at some teams right now that are at a crossroads. You're either 2-2 right now, you're 2-3, or you're 3-2. And your season could either go, one of three ways. You could continue to be mediocre and win one, lose one, win one, lose one, and just be a mediocre team for the remainder of the season. You could either start to ascend and put some things together and win 3 out of your next 4 and really say to yourself, hey, we got a chance to make something of our season. Or you could lose 2 out of your next 3 and you're already at 2-3 right now. And next thing you look up and you're, 3-5, 3-6, and you're like, damn, where the hell is our season headed? And so we're getting to a point now where we're like that. And, you see what the Lions did today. They lose at home to the Panthers. Now all of a sudden they're 3-2. And the Packers win, they're 4-1, and depending on what the Vikings do, all of a sudden now the Lions don't look all that hot. And it's literally after 2 weeks of football, just like that, because they weren't that impressive against Minnesota the week before. Their defense was, but there was just a ton of Minnesota turnovers that were the difference in that game. And I thought even if Dalvin Cook was able to stay healthy, they'd probably still find a way to win that game. So anything can happen. Right now, the Kansas City Chiefs are in the running for everything. Okay, head coach of the year, offensive rookie of the year, MVP of the league. You name it, they're in the running for it right now. When your team is undefeated and you're doing the things that they're doing, they're in the running for every single award imaginable, this season thus far in this young NFL season. Cloud says, what's up, Louie, man? Great football day today. Of course it was. Your team won 34-7. It was an excellent day when your team wins by 27 points and stays atop the y'all cut Cairo Santos? Wow. Okay. I did not know that. Thank you, Chiefs fans, for enlightening me. Damn, I feel bad for Cairo because Cairo wasn't doing anything. Cairo wasn't doing anything wrong. He just got injured and young upstart comes in and takes his damn job. But I don't blame him, man. You're always looking to upgrade a position on your team. And when you find a young kicker like Butker who comes in with a big leg and he was highly touted out of Georgia Tech, I don't blame him. I do not blame them. And so if I'm the Bucs, the first guy I'm calling up, if he's healthy, is Cairo Santos. Darth Vader says, Louie actually says he was worried about Chiefs defense. LOL. Are you really? Yeah, I am worried about this Chiefs defense. I am. Should I not be? You do realize you gave up 34 points today. And granted, one of those touchdowns and the 2-point conversion was in garbage time. I get it. I understand that. But are you convinced that this defense is good? Because I watched the Redskins really shred this defense last week. And if not for a drop pass and some untimely penalties and the inability of the defense to stay healthy and get off the field on third downs, they would have scored 30 points. If Samaje Perine doesn't drop a pitch that derailed one Redskin drive and Josh Doxson doesn't drop a touchdown on another one, The Redskins scored 30 points last week. I'm not sold that this Chiefs defense is that good. I don't know about it. I don't know if we're watching the same football games with the Chiefs playing in them, but that's just my concern. But in any event, Cloud says Kansas City should have drafted a quarterback years ago. Alex Smith is playing like it's his last. I don't know if that's the reason he's playing well, but if it is, damn it, that motivation worked. And now they got a dilemma on their hands. Worst case scenario, if they don't win the Super Bowl, they got some excellent trade bait. Alex Smith will garner them a first-round pick next year if he continues to play the way that he's playing right now. But the problem is, someone's going to overvalue they're going to overrate his value, give up too much compensation for him, and they're not going to use him the way the Chiefs used him. The Chiefs are using Alex Smith to perfection. I love Andy Reid. You already know how I feel about Andy Reid. They're using him to perfection, and I don't know if anybody else is going to be able to recreate what they're doing in Kansas City right now. So we'll see. Mazer_12 says, JJ is out for the season. This one hurts. We can rebound next week against the Browns and go into the bye at 500. Absolutely. I think he's out for the season. I'm not sure. Ian Rappaport reported that he was out for the season. I'm pretty sure he is, just because, you look at a guy in that much pain, he can't put any weight on it. I would think that he is done for the season, but we'll see. We will see. Silver V says there was too much attention on J.J. Watt. Shaking my head. I bet if it was a helmet-to-helmet concussion, we wouldn't have seen him after he left the field. That's the only thing that just made me upset was like the constant coverage of it. I mean, look, I don't want the man getting hurt, obviously, and I want to know, what the situation is. But damn it, it was ridiculous. Andrew Kim says Watt's injury was a tibial plateau fracture. Also, Chris Conley out for the season with an Achilles tear. We all knew that when we saw it, that was an Achilles tear. And Watt's injury, the tibial plateau fracture, doesn't sound like it's a big-time injury, but Watt had already said, look, man, when I can't do this at the level that I am accustomed to doing this at, I don't want to play anymore. And that's what you see from a lot of great players. When they realize, I can't do this like I used to, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I remember Warren Sapp saying, man, I could have played another 3 or 4 years in the league. But he said Brett Favre used to do a play-action fake. And his center, Brian Winters, I would always know when it was coming. And when he would stretch that football out, I'd be able to give Winters that swim move. And I'd be able to get in there, and by the time Brett Favre would turn around, I'd be in his face. He said, and I knew it was coming. He said, now I'm in Oakland, and Brett Favre is still in Green Bay. And he does that same damn play-action fake. And I know it. I know it's coming. And I go to do the swim move, and I can't get in the backfield. And I know I can beat this guy in front of me. My mind is telling me I can beat this guy in front of me, but my body's like, no the hell you can't. And at that point, he said, I knew I was done. I could have played another 3 years. My contract wasn't up. There was still value left in me playing, but I was done. I wasn't the same player anymore. And J.J. Watt already said he don't want to get to that point. When he even gets an inkling that he's not that guy anymore, he don't want to play no more. And when you start having the amount of injuries that he's had and the severity of these injuries with these surgeries, and you're rehabbing more than you are preparing for the upcoming season, it becomes less and less fun. And we already know just how much of a stickler J.J. Watt is for attention to detail when it comes to his NFL career. He hasn't really had a life. We watched him on Hard Knocks and what he does to prepare. That's not fun. The man wants to live his life, and at some point, you keep having these injuries, you keep having to rehab, and you start thinking about the bigger picture and life after football. And maybe he doesn't want to play anymore. You never know. We'll see. Let's see. Let's get to some more comments. Reese says, man, Lou, what has gotten into Alex Smith? Did Mahomes' pick invigorate him? I don't know, man. This dude is playing like his mind's gone bad. Like, he looks like the guy that was drafted number 1 overall. Like, this was the guy that the 49ers thought they were getting when they picked him over Aaron Rodgers. But, again, this is what happens also when you use a guy correctly. The weapons that they have, but this is the thing. He wasn't this accurate down the field before. Like, he's not missing down the field, so it's different. I think he's getting more opportunities because everything was underneath before. So he wasn't having a ton of shots down the field, and when he did take those shots, he wasn't accurate. Now he's taking a ton of shots down the field, and he's accurate with those shots down the field. And when that's not there, he's taking off and running. Like, this dude is just playing at another level. I've never seen Alex Smith play like this before. It's ridiculous. And if drafting a young quarterback is the basis for the play that we're seeing from Alex Smith, then God damn it. Like someone said earlier, they should have drafted a quarterback 3 years ago. Because this is the second time I've seen a quarterback hit their stride when another guy was drafted and threatening to take their job. I saw it with Drew Brees. His last year in San Diego is when the light bulb. Remember, they drafted Phillip Rivers because Drew Brees was iffy. He was good, then he was bad. He was good, then he was bad. They didn't really know what they were getting out of Drew Brees. And so because of that, they drafted Phillip Rivers. And then Drew Brees played out of his mind that final year in San Diego, but they drafted Rivers, so you knew they were going to turn the reins over to him. Same thing they're going to do in Kansas City with Mahomes. And then Phillip Rivers was able to go to New Orleans, and we saw what he became when he went to New Orleans. Alex Smith has a lot, and he's older, much older than Brees was when he left San Diego. There's a lot left in the tank with Alex Smith, but the problem is I don't think anybody's going to be able to maximize his skill set like the Chiefs are doing right now, but I don't know what has gotten into him. This guy is playing at another level, one of which, the likes of which we haven't seen with him ever. Reese says, Lou, my Bucks are bringing in damn near every kicker available for workouts tomorrow. I like Cairo Santos. I told you it would happen. They should have did it last week. I fully expect you guys to sign someone, and I think if Santos is healthy, he should be the guy. He's proven himself to be a really accurate field goal kicker in this league, so we'll see what happens. Mondraw says, Lou, I don't even know if you already talked about this, but I'm so worried about Trubisky. No receiver against a beast D-line, I think you meant. And his O-line is not that good. Poor guy. I'm not worried about it. They put him out there. He's going to have to protect himself. I've already said my piece about that situation, so we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. The Soundwave 92 says Giants 0-16 possible. Nah, they're gonna beat somebody this year. They're as bad as they are. They're gonna beat somebody this season. But boy, it is not pretty in New York. Ouch. Cloud says I think the Giants should play Davis Webb to see what he's got. Also, Eli might be out. I heard he also got injured. Eli doesn't miss games, so we'll see about that. I didn't hear anything about that, but we'll see. I don't see them playing Davis Webb either. I mean, unless this season gets out of control to the point where they're just like, let's see what we got. I don't see Eli signing off on that, though. So, Reese says, I didn't think the Panthers would be this good, Lou. I told you they were going to be good this year. I didn't think their offense was going to be this good. After seeing what I saw from them the first 3 weeks of the season, to see what they've done the last 2 weeks, it's just like a resurgence out of nowhere. But that's what this league is. But I told you I thought that the Falcons and the Panthers would be the two dominant teams in the NFC South, and I thought that the division would come down to those two teams in that division, and that's what it's looking like right now. Mazer_12 says, Merciless is out for the year with a torn pec. You got to be kidding me. Really? Yikes. If that is true, that is insane. This Texans team is in big-time trouble. Cafe says, will you do the Chargers game next? Did I watch the Chargers game? Yes, I did watch the Chargers game. I will be doing it at some point. It might not be next, but I'll be doing it at some point. So just stick around. The Soundwave 92 says, Eli's head x-rays came back clean. Probably didn't find anything up there. Funny. When it rains, it pours, man, and it's pouring in New York right now as we speak. They are 0-5 on the season. But the Chiefs aren't 0-5. As a matter of fact, they're 5-0 as they get it done yet again, this time on the road on Sunday Night Football versus the Houston Texans, 42-34, in a game in which the score doesn't indicate just how much they dominated, especially in the fourth quarter where they were able to run away with this game essentially. And so another great performance by this Chiefs football team as they get it done, run their record to 5-0, remain the lone unbeaten team in the National Football League, now at 5-0. Texans, meanwhile, can't build upon the impressive performance from a week ago, even though the offense continues to roll. This defense now in serious trouble after reportedly losing not only J.J. Watt, but Whitley Merciless for the entire year with an injury in this game. That is some debilitating news coming out of Houston, and both of those guys are in fact done for the season. They lose this game, drop to 2-3, and that's a wide open division. Anything can happen. Even the 2-3 Indianapolis Colts are alive and kicking, and Andrew Luck may be back next week. And if he is, now all of a sudden they have a legitimate shot of getting things done in that division. So we will see. The AFC South is anybody's guess. Texans go down tonight. Chiefs, boy, they looked impressive yet again. 42-34. If it happens in the National Football League, whether big or small, we cover all here on the Louie T Network. Come back and join me as I continue to break down everything and everything. The National Football League. We've got a lot of games to break down. Lockdown coverage coming at you. Maybe coming at you tonight. Maybe coming at you in the morning. But nonetheless, it's coming at your ass. So you stay tuned to the Louie T Network as we run through the slate of games in week number 5 in the National Football League. I'll see you later. Have a good one. Thank you for joining me on Sunday Night Football Overtime. The Kansas City Chiefs still undefeated.